And speaking of community meetings are actually held to help the community get, awareness on and residents about what's going on in their neighborhood. Now, we're going to tell you about a very special community event and a special community group. Here now to tell us more about the Save Our Neighborhood meeting and also the rent overcharge event. We welcome now Banana Kelly lead organizer Anna Burnham and Banana Kelly resident leader Wanda Swinney, and they're here. And if you want to know a little bit about, it's talking about gentrification, things that are going on in our borough, gentrification as well as overpriced rents, and the two of them are on set now to share a little bit with us. And thank you both for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when we talk about the borough of the Bronx, obviously the Bronx has changed, and we know that a lot of things have happened in the Bronx. But the big push and the big things that everybody's talking about is down in the Piano, they call it Piano District, gentrification, the South Bronx, moving out of New York, Harlem, people moving into the Bronx. Now it seems as though gentrification is moving into the Bronx. You guys pretty much are spot on in terms of identifying and dealing with it. Talk to us first of all about you're recognizing what's happening.
Yeah. So Wanda, do you want to kick off what you got started with Banana Kelly?
Okay. Well, I have to talk from my experience. When I say my experience, it was with the hurt and pain of displacement, not only once but twice in my life. And I got to a place where I wanted to try to make a change, so I started tenant associations, trying to get people together. I wound up meeting with Anna Burnham, and you know, she helped me, guided me, motivated me into doing things that we're doing today.
So when you talk about being displaced, give us a little bit of history. Like, what do you mean by displaced, so if somebody doesn't know?
Okay, well, I'm a mother of 6 children, and I was homeless once with 6 children. And do you know what it's like when kids are looking up at you and they're happy that we're all together, but you don't know where you're going? Okay, so, and then when I say twice, is that after my children had gotten older, my daughter went into the same situation. She was homeless for 2 years, and this is about 2 years ago.
So, and right now, our job, or your job, I should say, is really making residents aware of what's going on in the community, letting people know what's happening. So give us where we are.
Yes, definitely. So I think that folks, especially now we talked a lot about Trump earlier in the show, tend to think about racism and sort of racism in this country is stopping with Trump and not seeing how issues like the Piano District is an act of racism, right? It's white people with a lot of money going into a neighborhood and pretending like no one lived there beforehand, right? And coming in and building towers or building apartment buildings to make money and make a profit without considering what's going on at the local level. And as Wanda was saying, there's a lot of people that are struggling every day to make it every day and to just pay their rent. And so when you have pressures of coming in of massive development that is guided through city policy, right? Like when we talk about the Save Our Neighborhood meeting, we started that because the city came into our neighborhood and said, we're studying your neighborhood. And so what we read that is you're gonna rezone our neighborhood. We see it in East Harlem, we see it in Jerome Avenue, East New York. All of these areas are being targeted by city policy. And so when you have that targeting, you have a flush of capital coming in and development coming in and building housing that is too expensive for the people that live there.
And where does that leave you?
Yeah, where does that leave you?
And so you're having a community forum tonight.
Yes, yes. So we meet once a month for a couple hours. We always have dinner, childcare, and interpretation for Spanish. And so it is at 1283 Westchester Avenue, and it's always the third Wednesday of every month at 6 o'clock.
So we invite people to come on out and be a part of that.
Yes.
In terms of that, and then also we talk about rent. You know, if gentrification is one thing, rent is another thing. You're already shaking your head.
It makes no sense. I mean, we deserve a place to live too, and everybody don't have these high incomes where they can afford these places that they're building. It's unfair to people.
Yeah, I mean, the argument is you have new development on one block, and then you have development that still needs to occur in terms of fixing up properties on the same block, but then you got a certain rent price here and a certain rent price here, and the two are there's a big disparity between the two.
Yeah.
What are we doing in terms of raising the voice in the rent crisis?
So this is really important to think about, right? Because we have a lot of folks in the Bronx that live in both rent stabilized and public housing, right? So they think that they're safe. You're living in NYCHA and the conditions are awful in NYCHA, but you know your rent's not going to go up. What you do have to think about is that when your neighborhood starts to change around you, you're going to try and go to your grocery store, and all of a sudden you can't afford to buy food for your kids because you're walking into a Whole Foods and not a grocery store that you can afford. Or your 75-cent coffee just turned to a $4 coffee, and the neighborhood changes around you. With rent stabilized units, there's a lot of pressure on those tenants because your rent is regulated to harass them and to push them out to get an empty building to raise the rent. And so the next training that we're doing next Tuesday on the 22nd, same place at 6 p.m., is to talk to folks that are in rent stabilized units about your rights as a rent-stabilized tenant in keeping your place affordable, and make sure that your landlord is not already overcharging you, because you have a lot of protections and you have a lot of rights, and you need to really secure those, especially as this new development is starting that come into the neighborhood.
And so you got 2 forums coming up, Why My Rent Is So High. That's taking place on August 22nd, huh?
Yes, yes. And so we're going to have some lawyers come in that'll talk to you about like how to get a rent history. If you're a rent-stabilized tenant, you can check your rent and make sure that you're paying the legal rent. And then he'll talk to you about how to identify if maybe you're being overcharged. If you are being overcharged, there's a way to actually reduce the rent that you are paying and make sure that you're stable for a long time in the community.
And so what does it mean to have this kind of support? I know she spoke about having you right there and being that support. What does it mean to you having that kind of support to help you in a time such as this?
Well, me, as far as the help I'm talking about is when we all come together, collaborate, and make changes with determination and with the resistance of roadblocks, because we deserve to have a place to live too.
And a lot of roadblocks, do you feel, in this particular process when we talk about tackling rent, tackling gentrification? Do you feel like every block is a roadblock?
Yeah, I mean, like the policy is not going far enough now, right? So these rezonings, this is Mayor de Blasio's affordable housing plan, but the problem is that the rents don't go deep enough still, right? Like this, I will give it to him, it is the most progressive policy in the nation. However, the folks in these neighborhoods that are being targeted make far below what the income rates are for new development, and that's not okay, right? Like we need better term sheets, we need affordability to go deeper, and we need to do better at protecting the people that are already in the neighborhoods and make sure they aren't chased out by speculation, by rising rents, and by new development.
And slumlords.
And slumlords.
And you put emphasis on slumlords. Has that been your history?
No, but I see it a lot. No, I see it a lot. I fight about it. I can't take it. I don't like it. You know, it's unfair to people. Like I said, a lot of people don't have these high incomes, and they find ways of getting people out of their buildings because they want to raise the rent, and it's unfair.
Yeah, it's a growing problem across New York City. Talk to me about elected officials. Where are they on the bandwagon of this?
Yeah, I think that you know, Councilmember Salamanca, who's in the Southern Boulevard District, he's had numerous conversations with us about this, and he's committed to community land trusts, which is a great way to keep things affordable. It's something we advocate for and train on because it's hard, right? Like, we live in a capitalist society, and we live in a city where real estate runs this city. And so I think that there are a lot of pressures on elected officials to make sure that we are still working with the real estate industry and booming this city in a way that can sometimes move a little bit too quickly. And I think that it's difficult to slow things down in New York City, in a city that moves so quick all the time. But you know, they're open to conversations, and we're open to having those conversations.
Got a quick answer for you on this one. Here, when we talk about the word gentrification, I talk to people. I've had a couple guests come here and sit here. It's not gentrification, it's called progression. How do you argue against that?
Yeah, so gentrification actually is like the removal of what they call like low income values, which is really coded in racist language, right? And so there are ways to improve a neighborhood without gentrifying a neighborhood, right? And that is to say that like you need to bring in white people or high income people to make people better. And that's what gentrification is. So there is a difference,
And where are we included?
Exactly. And so you know, I think that gentrification really needs to be in the gentrification bucket, where we're talking about a very specific thing of changing people's culture and sort of labeling existing culture as bad. Not saying that we don't want. Yeah,
You got
do
it.
it. You got it. You say it.
Not saying that we don't want better, you know, or to see a change in the community, but where do we fit in at? Well, I mean, nobody talks to us about it. Right. It's like we don't have no say-so about it, and we deserve a place to live too. I have to keep saying that. I'm sorry.
Oh, and your voice is being heard. Wanda, Anna, we thank you because we're about out of time on this segment. Thank you so much for sharing. Of course, we'll continue to let the public know tonight, Wednesday, August 16th, Westchester Avenue, 1283. You can go to the forum tonight that deals with our Save Our Neighborhood community reading. And thank you both for coming again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, listen, we're about out of time for today's show. We want to thank all of our guests for joining us, most of all you, the viewer, for tuning in. And if you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the Recablecast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum's Channel 67, Verizon Files Channel 33, or watch us anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. Before I leave, I got to wish my sister, Josefa, a very happy birthday. Today is her birthday, Wednesday, August the 16th. She calls it a national holiday, so you got a little national holiday on air. Josefa Jaime, happy birthday to you. For all of us here at the Set of Open, thank you for watching. I'm Daren Jaime. Stay safe. Until next time we meet, keep this channel wide open. Take care. God bless.